King's College student stabbed to death outside Harrods was entirely blameless, police say.
King's College student stabbed to death outside Harrods was entirely blameless, police said. King's College student stabbed to death outside Harrods was entirely blameless, police said. King's College student stabbed to death outside Harrods was entirely blameless, police said.
A King's College student, who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend, was entirely blameless, police say.
A King's College student who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend was entirely blameless, police say. A King's College student who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend was entirely blameless, police say.
Mohammed Abdullah al-Arimi, 20, was stabbed near the luxury department store Harrods in Knightsbridge just after midnight on Friday, December 6th.
Mohammed Abdullah Arami, 20, was stabbed near the luxury department store Harrods in Knightsbridge just after midnight on Friday, December 6th.
Abdullah al-Arimi, 20, was stabbed near the luxury department store Harrods in Knightsbridge just after midnight on Friday, December 6th.
Mohammed Abdullah al-Arami, 20, was stabbed near the luxury department store Harrods in Knightsbridge just after midnight on Friday, December 6th.
The politics and economics student, who is an Omani national living in London, was enjoying a meal out with a friend before they were approached by two male suspects and assaulted.
The politics and economics students, who was an Omani national living in London, was enjoying a meal out with a friend before they were approached by two male suspects and assaulted. The politics and economic students, who was an Omani national living in London, was enjoying a meal out with a friend before they were approached by two male suspects and assaulted.
The victim's friend said, Mohammed was walking past Harrods last night with a friend of his from Bahrain when they were confronted by muggers.
The victim's friend said Mohammed was walking past Harrods last night with a friend of his from Bahrain when they were confronted by muggers. The victim's friend said Mohammed was walking past Harrods last night with a friend of his from Bahrain when they were confronted by the muggers.
Mohammed was pronounced dead at the scene on Basil Street shortly before 12:40 a.m.
Mohammed was pronounced dead at the scene on Basil Street shortly before 12:40 a.m. Muhammad was pronounced dead at the scene of Basil Street shortly before 12:40 a.m.
20-year-old friend was also injured in the attack and taken to hospital for treatment.
His 20-year-old friend was also injured in the attack and taken to hospital for treatment. His 20-year-old friend was also injured in the attack and taken to hospital for treatment.
Muhammad sadly died, but his friend survived.
Muhammad sadly died, but his friend survived. Muhammad sadly died, but his friend survived.
Post-mortem examination at Westminster Mortuary gave his cause of death as a stab wound. Following
a post-mortem examination at Westminster Mortuary gave his cause of death as a stab wound. A post-mortem examination at Westminster Mortuary gave his cause of death as a stab wound.
Following the attack, the suspects fled the scene on foot along Basil Street in the direction of Sloane Square.
Following the attack, the suspects fled the scene on foot along Basil Street in the direction of Sloane Square. Following the attack, the suspects fled the scene on foot along Basil Street in the direction of Sloane Square.
The 20-year-old was one of 3 people fatally stabbed in London in the space of just 24 hours.
The 20-year-old was one of the 3 people fatally stabbed in London in the space of just 24 hours. The 20-year-old was one of 3 people fatally stabbed in London in space of just 24 hours.
Exwanse Ngimbi, 22, was pronounced dead in Hackney, East London, shortly after 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, after an altercation with a group, whilst drill rapper Croslam Davis, 20, was pronounced dead just after 3:30 a.m. on Friday in Deptford, southeast London.
Exwanse Ngimbi, 22, was pronounced dead in Hackney, East London, shortly after 2:30 p.m. on Thursday after an altercation with a group whilst drill rapper rapper Claus Davis in the grove, whilst drill rapper Claus Davis, 20, was pronounced dead just after 3:30 a.m. on Friday in Deptford, southeast London.
Detective Chief Inspector Andy Partridge of Scotland Yard said, "The victim and his friend were entirely blameless, simply enjoying a meal out together. It does appear that the motive for this cowardly attack was robbery."
Detective Chief Inspector Andy Partridge of Scotland Yard said, "The victim and his friend were entirely blameless, simply enjoy a meal out together. It does appear that the motive for this cowardly attack was robbery." The victim and his friend were entirely blameless, simply enjoy a meal out together. It does appear that the motive for this cowardly attack was robbery. cowardly. It does appear that the motive for this cowardly attack was robbery.
Whilst.
Before Muhammad Adalham or Arami was killed, what did he do? He's having a dinner with his friends. He's having an altercation with a group. He's practicing rap. Where is the Basil Street? Near the Westminster Mortuary, near the Deptford, near the Harrows. What's the motive for this attack? Terrorist attack, robbery, revenge. King's College student stabbed to death outside Harrows was entirely blameless, police say. Stab, 刺, to push a sharp-pointed object, especially a knife, into somebody, killing or injuring them. Pierce, penetrate, thrust. Pierce, stab, penetrate. Thrust, pierce 多指人为的用刀刺、剑等尖锐的东西刺穿或刺入。Penetrate 较正式的用词，可指任何工具的穿入或穿透，也可指光线、声音等的透过物体。Thrust 本意是使某物进入，把某物刺进，有时侧重穿透、刺入。Stab 主要指利器刺入、刺伤，如匕首、短刀等。Stabber 刺客。He was stabbed to death in a racist attack. She was stabbed to death in a racist attack. Stab somebody in the back. Betray. Stab somebody in the back. Blameless, 清白的，无过错的。Doing no wrong, free from responsibility for doing something bad. Blameless, to lead a blameless life, entirely blameless. Innocent, 清白的，无辜的，无知的。Innocent. Blame, 抱怨。Blameful, 受到责备，应受到责备的。None of us is entirely blameless in this matter. Blameless, blame, innocent. Blame, complain. Thrust, penetrate. Pierce, stab, stabber. A King's College student who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend was entirely blameless, police say. Muhammad Abdullah or Arami, 20, was stabbed near the luxury department store Harrods in Knightsbridge just after midnight on Friday, December 6th. Knife, 用刀刺 to injure or kill somebody with a knife. Stab, she knifed him in the back, under the knife. A King College student who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend was entirely blameless, police say. A King's College student who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend was entirely blameless, police say. 本句话的主语是 a King College student， 后边 who 引导定语从句，修饰前面 student while 加现在分词做状语 was 为系动词 entirely blameless 做表语。Knife。A King's College student who was knifed to death in London while returning home from a restaurant with a friend was entirely blameless, police say. Muhammad Abdam A.R. Arami, 20, was stabbed near the luxury department store Harrods in Knightsbridge just after midnight on Friday, December 6th. Knife 用刀刺 to injure or kill somebody with a knife. Stab, she knifed him in the back. Under the knife, the politics and economics student who was in an Armani national living in London was enjoying a meal out with a friend before they were approached by two male suspects and assaulted. The victim's friend said Muhammad was walking past Harrods last night with a friend of his from Birmingham when they were confronted by muggers. Approach 靠近 to come near to somebody, something in distance or time. Rapidly approach 快速靠近 come near, draw near. Approachable 亲切的 approachability 可接近性 The time is fast approaching when we shall have to make a decision. The time is fast approaching when we shall have to make a decision. Approach 方法 Suspect 嫌疑人 A person who is suspect of a crime or of having done something wrong. Suspect in Chief suspect 4. Two men were arrested as suspects in the bombing. Suspect 怀疑 It is suspected that suspect. Assault 攻击 To attack somebody violently, especially when this is a crime. Brutally assault attack assaultive assaulter 攻击者 Many healthcare workers say they have been physically assaulted by patients. Many healthcare workers say they have been physically assaulted by patients. Assaultive assaulter Victim 受害者Victimize 是受害 A person who has been attacked, injured or killed as the result of crime, a disease, an accident, etc. Fall victim to something 成为什么什么的受害者 Earthquake victim Innocent victim Victim 是受害 A new program will assist stroke victims for whom mobility has become difficult. A new program will assist stroke victims for whom mobility has become difficult. Victimize 受害者 assist stroke victims for whom mobility has become difficult. Confront 面对遭遇 to face somebody so that they can't avoid seeing and hearing you, especially in an unfriendly or dangerous situation. Confront reality, confront fear, confrontation 对抗 confrontational 对抗的 This was the first time he had confronted an armed robber. Mugger 抢劫犯 A person who threatens or attacks somebody in order to steal their money, especially in a public place. Robber criminal Mugger A mugger grabbed her handbag as she was walking across the park. A mugger grabbed her handbag as she was walking across the park. Moham was pronounced dead at the scene on Brazil Street shortly before 12:40 a.m. His 20-year-old friend was also injured in the attack and taken to hospital for treatment. Mohammed sadly died out, but his friend survived. A post-mortem examination at Westminster Mortuary gave his cause of death as a stab wound. Pronounce 宣布 to say or give something formally, officially or publicly. Be pronounced dead, officially pronounce, declare, announce, pronounceable 可发音的 pronunciation. I now pronounce you man and wife. At the scenes 在案发现场 I can witness that he wasn't at the scene of the crime. Behind the scenes. Post-mortem 尸检 A medical examination of the body of a dead person in order to find out how they died. A medical examination of the body of a dead person in order to find out how they died. Post-mortem. Carry out a post-mortem. Post-mortem. 尸检 Post-mortem. 验尸 Carry out a post-mortem. The post-mortem on the child revealed that she had been poisoned. Following the attack, the suspects fled the scene on foot along Basil Street. In the direction of Solent Square, the 20-year-old was one of 3 people fatally stabbed in London in the space of just 24 hours. Flee, 逃走 flee abroad, flee to exile. Escape. He fled to London after an argument with his family. To leave a person or place very quickly, especially because you are afraid of possible danger. Fatally, 致命的 in a way that causes or ends in death. Fatally injured, fatal toxic. Fatal, fateful, fate, 命运 Many people were fatally wounded during the bomb attack in the space of 在什么什么时间内 in the short space of time, in the space of 5 days, in the space of just 10 years, her company has grown from one small shop to a multi-million-pound empire. Ex-cos Navy 22 was pronounced dead in Hackney, Eastern Lawn shortly after 2:30 p.m. on Thursday after an out-crashing with grab wheels to drill a Ripper crossing Davis. 20 was pronounced dead after 3:30 a.m. on Friday in Deptford, southeast London. Altercation, 争执 a noisy argument, disagreement, dispute, conflict. Altercation. A youth became involved in an altercation with a police officer over a parking ticket. Detective Chief Inspector Annie Partridge of Scotland Yard said the victim and his friend were entirely blameless, simply enjoy a meal out together. It does appear that the motive for this coward attacks was robbery. Motive, 动机 a reason for doing something, hidden motive, a variety of motives, incentive, motivation, motivate 有激动的 He was suspicious of her motives in inviting him to the house. Cowardly 怯懦的 Not brave, not having the courage to do things that other people do not think are especially difficult. Cowardly weak, timid. Coward 懦夫 cowardice 怯懦胆小 Coward, timid, coward, weak. This was particularly brutal and cowardly attack. Cowardly motive. 早看见你了。